Welcome back, listeners. And for those of you watching, I am excited for our next guest segment. And as always, I'm going to turn over the mic to today's guest and have her introduce herself to us. So please tell the Living Fabulously Fierce community who you are.
Hi guys, this is Natalie. I'm Natalie, I should say. I live in Boston, Massachusetts. I'm a graphic designer and I am here to talk fabulously fierce to you.
So excited. So, Nat, for the audience, what I always like to kick off first with is just a general question of, can you share with us the space in which you're currently having an impact?
I think currently right now, the impact I'm having is in the running community. So I've been running marathons a lot. I did take the last 5 years off only to grow my family. Recently married in the last 6 years. I was married, 2 children. So before then, I had started running 5Ks, 10Ks, half marathons. Then finally, I decided because running to me is almost like getting a tattoo. It's like you just get addicted. So I decided to run my very first marathon, which was New York City in 2013. And then after that, it was just like a tumble. Like, oh, when you're done, you're like, I'm all set. And then you think, no, I want to do another one. I want to try. And so with the trying and doing, you actually you achieve your goals more and more every time. So you always want to be better and do better with the running. But the more so now, the impact I'm having is helping others know that running can be done with any person. Any person can do it. So my background more so is that I'm living with multiple sclerosis. So I've been living with multiple sclerosis since 2008. And initially, when I was diagnosed, I thought, wow, look at all the things I've done that I probably won't be able to do, such as running. Because I did track and field for like 7 years prior to running long distance running. So when it came time to figure out what can I do while living with this autoimmune disease, I decided why not start running and see where it takes me. So I've achieved it in so many ways and forms. Even when I tell my doctor, oh, I've done a marathon, they're always like surprised and excited at the same time because not everyone dealing with MS is doing the same thing as well. Some do have it more severe than others not so much. So as long as I can still keep running, it's always my motto that I will keep running until MS stops me. So far, so good. I did have a setback after having my firstborn where it looked like I had a stroke. So I thought that was it. That was the end. I would go for walks here and there, and I would feel like some sort of impediment on my right side. Then I did get pregnant again, had my second child. Then one day I'm just walking down the street. It's like a bug. It's like, I'm like, oh, I really want to run today. I really want to run. He's in the stroller. I'm pushing him down the street. And I think I texted my husband, I'm like, I'm running. I'm going to go run. If I fall down, I will call you. I started running. And then when I realized I could run at least 300 to 500 meters, I think I almost cried right there. I was like, oh my goodness, maybe I can go back to running. And sure enough, I started running and I was my own cheerleader. I was pushing myself. I'll go for a mile, then 2 miles, then 5 miles. And then I realized, okay, this is good. Something good is happening. I was taking my medication. I was keeping up with my diet. I was running. And then literally, like I said, 5 years into this, I decided, you know what? Let me go for it. I didn't settle for a 5 miler. I didn't settle for a 5K, a 10K, straight for a full-fledged marathon training. And what happened? COVID. Yeah. So COVID stopped. And then I had the opportunity to run virtually, but I didn't feel safe enough to run virtually only because at least when you're running at a marathon such as like the Boston one or New York or any marathon, you have medics there. You have someone like if you fall, like people are there to call someone to help you in case of an emergency. So I didn't want to just go out and, I mean, granted, you're training, you're running 18 miles on a weekend, no one's really there with you, but at least you have that, you're near stores and markets, but 20 miles versus 26 miles is a complete different beast. Anyone who runs those distances know that. So I did eventually get to run in October of 2021 for Boston, did it, was my worst time ever of all the 6 marathons I ran, but I finished.
Oh, timing.
Yeah, timing wise, it was the worst for me, but I wasn't going for timing only because I knew where I had started from in that journey to where I ended. So when I crossed that finish line, I I was even amazed by my own accomplishments because I didn't think, I was like, maybe I'll stop at mile 10, maybe I'll stop at mile 20, but nope, I kept pushing, and it was a warm day. And anyone who has MS knows warm days are detrimental. It's like your body just rejects everything. Also, you have all these weird pains. You don't know where they're coming from. But I pushed through, I did it, and I finished. And I signed up for another marathon, which I got accepted this Monday. So I'll be running New York 2022. Yep. I got accepted on Monday. I'll be running for the Boston, not Boston, the Black Marathons organization. So they accepted me as a charity runner. And so I will be running in November this year. Yep.
Holy smokes. So much. But the first thing that stuck with me as you were describing your journey and your experience was you said, I'm just going to start and see where it takes me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's unreal. I'm just going to start
You
and
have
see
to
where it takes
start.
me.
Yeah. You just have to start. No one's going to start for you. It's a personal journey. Every time like someone asks me, how do I start running, or what can I do to get into this running? Like, I can only tell you as much like a coach does, or like a parent tells a kid it's okay, but it's you. It's when you're ready to start. It's like anything, a diet, something. It's that journey that you want it to be coming from you. And once you start, then that journey takes its course. You'll have people to help you along the way with, resources to help you achieve things that you're trying to do. But that first step is that start. You have to know when you're ready. You can't wake up one morning and go, today's the day. This is what I'm going to do. You can go for that walk, that jog, something, bike ride, swimming. I'm going to learn how to swim. You just that start,
Yeah.
It's a personal goal.
So that was the first piece. I'm just gonna start and see where it takes me. And then you followed up with, and I was my first and best cheerleader. And then you talked about the how of that in the face of, I mean, this is a physical challenge. It's not even just mental or just physical. It sounds like it truly is a combo, and it's a test, but you committed to being your own and best cheerleader.
Yep.
Can you share a little bit about that?
So for me, when I was diagnosed with MS, like I said, I've always ran, and then I picked it up probably 6 months to 8 months after being diagnosed. I was living on my own finally, because I was like, wow, I'm only 28 years old. How is this? How am I going to do this? And I would go out for runs, and people, like, I had a friend who would say, let's do a 10K. I'm like, what? I'm like, okay. So I'm doing these runs. And I remember it was a race I was standing in, and the New York City Marathon was about to happen the following weekend. And a bunch of people around me were like, oh yeah, the marathon's happening this weekend. And I'm like, a marathon. And now, mind you, I didn't understand Garments and the sneaker thing, like proper clothing wear, like pacing and timing. I was just running just to run and enjoy the time spent on my 2 legs. I'm like, yes, I can run. This is great. I'm like, okay. And then I started to actually take it more into for what it was. I'm like, what is this whole like community? Like, what are they doing? Getting magazines, going on Google, checking on like garments and the raining, not the racing and the pacing, doing 5Ks here, 10Ks here, talking to people. And then I was like, all right, I'm gonna train for a marathon. This will be great. So I started on this app, this Hal Higdon app that was popular at the time, and it was like a virtual coach. Go for these runs, and I'm like, okay, I don't have a coach to cheer me on. I have friends who would see me post on Facebook, and I wasn't big on Instagram at all that time. And so people just see what I was doing. They're like, yeah, this is great. I felt good, but it was like they didn't really understand the journey I was going through because here I was like, okay, I'm running. How about if I fall? Because I hear, you can trip on your own self. I'm like, just having a mess and doing all these things by myself out there. No one's really viewing me. That's why, too, when you're running early in the morning, no one really sees you. No one's there to clap. Like, there's no audience. So you're just you. You're your own coach. You're your own. You're the runner. You're your audience. You're your own spectator. This is it. It's a solo type activity, but yet it can be a team activity if you have a group with you. I know that many people running or train for marathons, so I was my own group. I was my own team, and this was my very first, and I was going to go the way I wanted to do it without being structured in a training. And the weekend that I had to run the most longest run, because when you're training, the longest you'll go and train before you actually do a marathon is 20 miles. Now, mind you, I've done 19, I've done 18, I've done 15, right? I ran the 20 miles and I didn't see this coming. So I'm running and then I hear it says, you've done 20 miles. And I was like, I was done. And I stopped in the middle of the street. I was in the middle of the street on the sidewalk and I just started crying because I'm thinking of what I heard the nurse told me, what the doctor told me, like things that I should think about, look for, things that I looked on Google or people who've been dealing with MS for a longer time. I just bursted into tears like, oh my God, I did this. Oh my goodness, I ran 20 miles. I was like, really? But the cheerleading was that emotional aspect. It wasn't like a pop of balloons, an expression of joy like that. It was more of like a goal that happened. I didn't even run the marathon yet. It's just the fact I ran 20 miles and all I had to do was do 6 more miles. But if you look towards my future of what happened, I was training for that New York I want to say it was 2012. That was the marathon that no one could do in New York because of Hurricane Sandy. So I went out to New York, couldn't run the marathon. And then I came back home devastated. And then someone said, hey, I see that you've been running. How about running Boston? I'm like, how? You can only be like, you have to like qualify. Like they're called charity runners. I'm like, oh, okay. What a good opportunity to volunteer my time while running, raising money and funds for a charity. That is awesome. Okay. And so I did that. So I trained for the Boston 2013. And as a lot of people know, that was a marathon bombing one. That was the second marathon I trained for. Mind you, I ran 20 miles again on my own. I was like, okay. I was like, maybe I wasn't meant to run a marathon. And then finally, Bay State Marathon in Lowell, Massachusetts. I found that one. A lot of people run that marathon to qualify for Boston. I was like, okay. I'm like, I'm not gonna qualify, but I'm gonna run my heart out. I'm like, I will run this. I ran that marathon. I finished the marathon. And I was like, wow, now that was a day for me to cheer. I was so happy. I ran 26 miles. I finally finished a marathon. And then 3 weeks later, I did New York. So I ran 2 marathons in 3 weeks, separating itself. Because whoever couldn't finish or do that marathon in New York, you had the opportunity to go the next year or the following year to run. So my body went through a lot of training and a lot of running until I finally accomplished that one marathon. And then the following year in 2014, when those who couldn't finish that marathon in Boston I went running that marathon too. I crossed that finish line. Now, without all the achievements I did with the New York finishing, finally doing a marathon in Bay State, when I crossed Boston, this one lady who knew me from Workout World, that's a gym in Boston. I used to do a lot of kickboxing with her, and I was always doing some sort of workout just to get my body just moving, because MS, you need to always keep moving. I remember I didn't know she was going to be there. She was at the finish line. She's like, Natalie, now you're delirious. You just finished 26 miles. You're delirious. What's calling me? Now she's like, she's been following my journey. Like, I was posting all these things. People know I had MS, and I was doing this. I was achieving all these goals. She's like, you did this. You finished. I swear, I thought I left all that back in Bay State. The tears came streaming down, the joy. I finally was cheering myself on. I was so happy. I was like, wow, yes, I said, no, we did this. It took a whole lot of people, because when you're training, there's the waking up early in the morning. If you're with a significant other, you're like, I have to be outside. You're always outside running. You're just out there just running, and then people want to hang out with you. You're like, oh my God, I'm so sore. You're just sleeping. There's, the activities, they have to take place when they can take place, and I was more structured in my goals in running, and it's a lifestyle. So to me right now, it's a lifestyle, and I've managed to make it work with how my life has changed, like getting married, having children, doing all these things, because you'll see out there are women who are moms who are like ultra runners, they're out there like for days running. You need that other person to be that support. But at the same time, like you said, like you're your own cheerleader too, because no one is going to cheer you on. Because then I think the marathon I just did, it was the worst timing. But the only person who cares is me.
Yeah.
Everyone else is just like, you finished. But me, I'm like, yeah, but I didn't finish the time I wanted. And I'm the only one who's holding on to that moment, At the end of the day, that's how people have to move on. You have to know that you did it, and no one else cares. It's telling the truth. No one else really cares but yourself, because that is your thing.
Well, it's interesting because even as you were talking about when you hit 20 miles, right? And it was stunning, one, because people don't do that training for a marathon, like you wait the last 6 months, and which is learning for me, right? Like I thought, don't you want to get a practice 26 in before, right? But no one does that, number one. Number two, you said the nurses, the doctors, what you've been reading about MS. And the thing is, I always have this in my mind, there's always facts, and then there's truth. Facts are facts. Life is life. There are facts that point to how things, circumstances, situations cannot be denied, right? These are facts. But we show up with new truths every day. But it depends on how we choose, right? We choose, are we going to stand in the facts, which is fine. Facts are facts, right? Or are we going to keep moving to build new truths? Because if you didn't start to see where it took you, if you didn't engage as your own cheerleader, you'd still have facts, and nobody would think anything different. Nobody would know anything different. It is what it is. Now, that's what all of us would say to you, right? Because we got facts. And then you intervene with your life, your commitment, how you show up, what you're authentically and intentionally committing to. And all of a sudden, there's a new truth. That's beyond powerful. And it's like you said, in the end, your timing was, quote unquote, horrible. It was awful. That's a fact to you, comparing from your previous time. The rest of us are just seeing the truth that you're a warrior, literally worrying with your own things that you have to contend with, and how you're balancing your life to be an everyday conqueror in this way. So
Mhm.
I think that's another lesson for us, is that when you start to see where things will take you, how you engage in you as your own cheerleader also positions you to be a realist about facts, but embrace the opportunity
Right.
to create new
It's
truths.
all resistance. Like, are you going to choose the easy right or the hard wrong?
Right.
'Cause everyone wants to
Exactly.
do it easy, but you
Right.
have to push through that resistance, because that's no one wants to go through that. But you don't know what's
Right.
over the hump. You don't know.
Exactly.
You don't know. You have to go through it to figure
Yeah.
it out. Like, if someone said, "Oh yeah, this is all gonna happen, and you're still gonna run a marathon," I would have, like, 5 years ago, yeah, no, thank you. I'm tired of even thinking of that. But that's the
Yeah.
thing, that's the thing. You go to a point that you're like, why not start and see where it takes me? If I fail, I fail, but at least I tried.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, it's all
And
about just that one step forward. It's like running that one step forward.
And then the other thing that sticks out, I kind of feel like this is your formula: start, see where it takes you, be
Mm-hmm.
your own cheerleader, know that, and you said this, it was because you were alone, you didn't know the things, you
Mm-hmm.
didn't know there was a community. And then you started reading magazines, you started joining a community. Your first run with your son, you're running, and you checked in with your husband and say, listen, this feels good. I'm going to do this. If anything happens, I'll call you. And then all of a sudden, everything else started to unfold, i.e.,
Right.
what you need and the who you need.
Yeah.
Those things come back. They
Yep.
start to show, or they come up, they start to show. And
Yeah.
so I think that's such a lesson for all of us. Again, start where you are, see where it takes you,
Mm-hmm.
be your own cheerleader, probably because you have to start solo. But know, if you stay consistent in that, who and what you know will become apparent, or what you need will become apparent. And as we're focusing on masterful execution this season, I always say masterful execution is not about perfection. It's legit just being consistent.
Yeah.
And your area of impact, that's all, like that's it. That's at the core of it. And that one thing, that consistency, that masterful execution has you killing it in the running game.
Thank
So
you.
thank you for sharing all of that with us. That's, I
Yeah.
mean, beyond measure huge.
You
And
said
the,
it.
the last thing was,
Yeah. The consistency. It's being consistent.
yeah,
You have to be consistently doing something to achieve that goal.
yeah.
Yeah. It's like another. I listened to this podcast, and he's a runner, and he's always talking about being consistently good. You
Mm,
you know like, you can be great, but are you consistently good? You can be grateful for that one moment that you did that great thing, but at the end of the day, are you consistently good in doing it over and over again? It's like training. You're going out there running your little miles, you're doing it. But if you have that one day that you had that best pace because you killed it on the street, that's that one great day.
yeah,
And that's it. You
yeah,
need to be
yeah.
consistently good to achieve that greatness. It's not just
I
going to
love that.
happen that one day. For
Yeah.
me to have ran that miles that I thought was not so good, what made me go to the start and actually finish, I was consistently training. I was consistently every morning waking up, doing some activity, cross training, running, you know, I was keeping at it. I didn't just wake up and say, I'm running a marathon. I trained for it. Hot weather, rainy weather. I was there.
Snow.
Snow. Exactly. New England. Exactly.
I mean, it's such a I mean, there's so much. And the other thing I was gonna say, the funny thing is, as you were talking, I all of a sudden also had this image. and I know it's somewhere because it just came back to my memory. It's probably in a yearbook or something, a picture of you in your Font jersey.
Yeah.
As you were running. So when I think about
I was a hurdler too.
your, say that again?
I was a hurdler too.
Oh, I didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah,
I just remember
I
you
was only a
running.
sprinter. You could not get me to run a mile. No, thank you.
Really?
Yeah, I was
That's
a
so
sprinter. Mm-mm.
but it came to mind for me that wow, no, you've been consistent in this space since high school.
Yeah.
Like and
And
it's just interesting to see
even
how
before
it
high school.
unfolds for us. See, like so there the power of consistency is not even it's immeasurable and invaluable. So I have to ask you, you
Yeah.
know, embedded in this sounds like there's some level of self-accountability as well.
Mm.
And we always talk about in the Living Fabulously Fierce community, for me, when I'm kind of off my game or when I need to cheerlead myself, I just have to say Living Fabulously Fierce as my call to action, my call to accountability to self.
Mhm.
Because it means something to me. It gets me back where I need to be my best.
Mhm.
And so for you, if you had to come up with a word, what would it be? Living fabulously what?
Living fabulously in keeping pace with my time.
Hmm.
When I say pace with my time, not only in just running, but in life. Am I going too fast with what I'm achieving? Am I going too slow? Am I taking the time? It's like training. You will get there. You will have a bad day where it's too slow. You will have a great day where you just killing it with the miles, the time, the pace, the energy, the flow. But you will have those moments where not today. It didn't happen. I pace myself in time in my journeys because when I had the setback after having my firstborn, I I was it took me down. I had to pace
Yeah.
myself to get to where I am today. I couldn't hurry it up. I didn't go back into running, but I would go walking, jogging, like even walking when I had my second born. I didn't know that day I was going to go run.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, it was timing. It's like, it's a timing thing. Like, why not? Let's
Yeah.
try this and see where it takes me. And if I fail, then I started too soon. If I do it now, then let's see where it goes. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God. Okay, we could go on again for hours, but I so much there. So I was just at an offsite this week, and we did these random questions that each person had to answer when it was their turn. And I don't believe in coincidences. So this is funny. So I'm just sharing it. The question for me is, what is the biggest lesson you've learned this year? And what I shared
Mm.
was, it's important to be paced in
Oh,
everything you do.
oh,
And I took that from running because there's consequence
yep,
starting too hard too fast.
yep.
And there's consequence or missed opportunity sometimes for starting off too slow. And so to
Right.
hear you point to that, it is
Wow.
beyond measure reinforcing and inspiring. And there's so much truth in that. So thank you for sharing that.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that
Yeah,
too.
of
Yeah.
course. Of
Yeah.
course. So, final question, and we've gone back to high school and a little bit earlier as well. When
Mhm.
you think about the Nat from, excuse me, you didn't say Nat, you said Natalie. Um,
Come on. We're fine.
when you think about Nat from, when you think of that version of yourself, that version of Nat, what is it that you want her to know? What wisdom or insight that you have that you absolutely want her to have?
From my 10 years ago self, you said?
We can
Or
do
from
10
my,
years ago, yeah.
or even way back in the Wayback Machine? Well, For example, if I were to go back to the girl in the emergency room and the doctor says, "Hi, you have early stages of MS from what we saw in your scan," I would look at her and say, "This is just the beginning. Your journey has just begun." Because from that moment on, whatever you've done and accomplished will be more so in the journey that you take from this person telling you about this disease. This disease is actually going to make you stronger, is actually going to make you wiser, and it's going to make you take risks. Like I flew out of a plane, I, jumped out of a plane, not jump, but you know what I mean. I ran 6 marathons, countless half marathons. I am still traveling because I've always done it even before then. And you will actually have a family, because I thought, you're not going to have a family. I have 2 children. Even today, I'm thinking to myself, like, I could have, if I could tell her, I'm like, it'll be okay. You won't be living with your parents forever. Things will happen for you. It won't be as quickly as everyone around you is happening, but it will happen. It's a pace. It's a journey. Take the time and enjoy what you have every day to get to where you are today. That's what I would tell her.
Mic drop. What else is there? What else is there?
There's more. There's more.
Sorry. It's not what else is there for you. There's nothing to even say. It's all to just take that in. And so thank you. Thank you for sharing your light through your experience, through your authenticity, your intention, and you literally just living the embodiment of masterful execution as someone confronting challenge to it every day. So yeah, that's it. That's all I can say. And I celebrate even now all the more that is to come. So cheers to you, my friend.
Thank you, friend.
And thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. I got nothing else. People, I can't, there's nothing else to say.
We can talk for hours. We could talk for hours.
It's just so powerful what you've given us today. And so thank you for, again, sharing your light and filling our cup in this way. And just cheering you on for the next marathon, for the next everything. Again, even now, and can't wait to celebrate with you.
Thank you, hon. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And listeners, thank you so much for joining us. As always, I say, if you didn't have your notebook out during this conversation, yes, go back and re-listen, but also in watching this, this is a real gift of light that we've taken from Natalie here. And so I encourage you to soak it all up. The last thing I do want to ask you, early on, you mentioned the charity. Can our listeners know where we can contribute if anyone is interested?
Oh, definitely. Again, like I said, I just got word that I've been accepted. It's for the National Black Marathon Association. If anything, I can send you the link and you can plug it in. And then it will benefit all the runners that don't get seen, honestly. So it's a good opportunity. And I feel privileged to run for that community. And it's a good group of folks who are just trying to just run and be welcomed and just embrace health in that journey that they're accomplishing. Yeah.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. All the gratitude, all the appreciation, and all the adoration. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Of course, listeners, watchers will speak to you, catch you up again next episode. In the meantime, stay fierce and have a fabulous week ahead.